The most recent episode of Doctor Who, The Power of the Doctor, was a smorgasbord of cameos, from past Doctors to past companions and of course, monsters. I want to start off by saying I'm not against fan service. I think when it's done well, it can be great. And Doctor Who isn't the only one guilty of this. Pretty much every television show made today is just cameo, 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 and then some even more cameos on top. It's getting to the point where it can feel like television is made around the yippee moment. I classify the yippee moment as anything remotely fan servicey, which adds nothing to the story. It could be a lifeless 5-second appearance, or a character turning to the camera to say a line that was previously said. It's something that is purely there for you to say, yippee! Today, I'll discuss what I consider good and bad fan service, and ask the question, is a cameo enough for you? I don't think characters returning is a bad thing. In fact, I think it could be a great thing. I want to discuss what I consider good character returns. In The Power of the Doctor, two classic series companions, Tegan Jovanka and Ace McShane, returned to our screens. This was especially exciting since Sophie Aldred's character Ace never got a proper farewell on screen due to the series being cancelled after season 26. There have been a handful of departures written for her in the expanded universe, but nothing on screen, apart from a reference in the Sarah Jane Adventures, where she's said to be a CEO of a charitable organisation. So fans and I were excited to see if they would close this chapter in her life, and they did. It was fan service in a way that it answered a question we've been waiting for, but it felt like it worked as a part of the whole episode emotionally. There was a story to be told. Having Sylvester McCoy appear alongside her did make it fall into the yippee moment category, but I think I'll allow them to get away with it this time. I think if Ace's return was a standalone episode and not just one of 1,000 character returns, it could have been given more emotional weight and felt like a proper return. I think in 2006 School Reunion, where they had the character of Sarah Jane Smith return, this was a great model to base the classic series companion return. The episode dealt with her feelings after the Doctor left her jealousy of Rose, and how they overcame it to become friends. And it felt earned. And when she was given a spin-off, it just made sense. It didn't feel like just fan service. It felt like an actual story that needed to be told. What is life after the Doctor for a companion? An issue I had with The Power of the Doctor that everyone else seemed to love was the final moment when previous companions made cameos. I use the word cameo derogatory here. The reason I hate cameos is because I feel like they are a disservice to the actors and the characters that they had played in the past. They are purely there so people can point at the screen and say, look, it's Mel. And I feel like Mel's appearance in that scene raises more questions than answers. How did Mel get back to Earth? Why doesn't she sound or dress like Mel, and instead sounds and dresses like famous actor Bonnie Langford? It feels less like a cameo and more like a convention appearance. These questions are important to answer because their appearance doesn't make any sense otherwise. It's just prioritizing someone being there rather than actually checking in with a character. By this scene, I felt like every single British actor that had ever appeared in Doctor Who showed up, that I literally felt no joy seeing William Russell return as Ian Chesterton. I had fan service fatigue. Any line of dialogue spoken in that scene could have been said by any previous companion. Everyone in that scene was interchangeable and replaceable depending on actor availability. And if that's the case, it's not a character return, it's a cameo. Okay, let's summarize. I classify a character return is when a character comes back with some emotional development. The character has evolved and continues to evolve throughout the episode. They are consistent with their original characterization, but aged appropriately. Their return serves a purpose. They have unfinished business, or it makes sense for them to be there. A cameo, on the other hand, is where a character just pops up, either out of character or just to deliver a line of dialogue. The dialogue could be interchangeable or reference a line that they're famous for. And sometimes they don't even feel like their character, they just feel like the actor. But what do you prefer? I feel like I see this all the time nowadays, where people are just happy that someone is back. It doesn't seem to bother them if they're written completely differently or the film style is completely off. They're just happy with what it is. I just feel like we should be asking for more than the bare minimum, because they're just gonna keep giving it to us. Instead of interesting character pieces where the actors have something to sink their teeth into, it's easier just to shove a bunch of actors into a room and say a line and wink to the camera. Because it feels like a lot of actors feel like they're just walking up on set to collect a paycheck. But if they were given something to actually do, maybe they would give a better performance. Because let's be real, the actors accepting these cameos know exactly what they're doing. They know it's really not much. Because I would like to finish watching a film or television show without saying, I enjoyed it for what it was. I would like to just enjoy a film because it's good. But anyway, back to Doctor Who. One of my biggest irks is when a character references a line of dialogue from the past that they couldn't have witnessed. It's something that the audience knows, but the character couldn't possibly know. I think one of the most egregious examples is when Kate Stewart turns to the camera and says, 5 rounds rapid, making a reference to the one time the Brigadier said it during the Demons. I hate this, because how could she possibly know that he said this? The way it's shot is done purely for a yippee moment response. They know the audience knows this line and they want you to cheer. It's embarrassing, it feels like pantomime. Especially when Kate's first appearance made it clear that she wanted to separate herself from her father, and now she can't last 5 seconds without referencing him. It's just really upsetting, because I think Kate could be a really good character if they just let her be her own thing. Anyway, speaking of the Brigadier. The Brigadier is an important character in Doctor Who's history. He has met most of the classic series Doctors and is referenced throughout the new series and even made an appearance in the Sarah Jane Adventures. There is no denying that the Brig is a beloved member of the show's history. But ever since Nicholas Courtney sadly passed away in 2011, there has been references to his character consistently in the show, from sweet to questionable. In The Wedding of River Song, the Doctor is informed of the Brigadier's death via a phone call. It's a sweet and poignant moment that encourages the Doctor to stop avoiding his inevitable death. It paid tribute to Courtney, whilst also serving the wider narrative. His character was even given a daughter, Kate Stewart, who was created to honour him also, and fill in his place in the coming years. But the writers couldn't leave it there. In Death in Heaven, the Brigadier's dead body is turned into a Cyberman and then blows up. In the unit plane, a painting of the Brigadier is propped up. And then Mark Gatiss goes on to play the Brigadier's grandfather in Twice Upon a Time. The show seemed to be unable to go 2 minutes without mentioning him, to the point where it felt less like honouring and more like exploitation. It stopped feeling respectful and it became almost comical, and some found the Brigadier turning into a Cyberman to be a bit too morbid. And I have to ask, when does it become exploitive? When does it become disrespectful? When does a character outlive the actor who originated the role? And that's something that I haven't fully figured out yet. With the advent of deep fakes and the idea of remounting missing episodes, these questions just come up again. Is it okay to plaster the deceased Bill Hartnell's face on top of a new actor, like something out of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, making him dance like a puppet for our entertainment decades after he had passed? Is that ethically okay? Would you like it if someone brought you back from the dead for entertainment purposes? To make a profit off of you long after you're dead? And is it too late to even think about the ethical consequences, since deepfakes are already a part of our lives? And once again, I haven't decided for myself how I feel about those things. But I want you to ask yourself how you feel about it, especially before celebrating the idea of deepfakes and championing their existence. My biggest issue with Twice Upon a Time is the same issue I have with The Power of the Doctor. It feels like a disservice to the current actor playing the role in their final story. Capaldi and Whittaker were not the central focus of their final stories. No one discusses Capaldi's performance in his final episode. The whole topic of conversation is around David Bradley's attempt at playing the most sexist First Doctor. No one talks about Whittaker's performance because she is overshadowed by almost every actor who had ever played the Doctor and then dies halfway through the story. She's barely in her final outing. It is baffling that they decided not to give these Doctors their last chance in the sun, to be the heroes of their own stories. Instead, the audience is distracted with endless cameos and fan service. And it makes you think, the fans are being served, but the actors are not. I don't think we should abolish fan service, because where is the line? Do the Daleks never return, or would that be considered fan service? I think fan service is great as a little treat for special events, especially anniversaries. The 5 Doctors, the Day of the Doctor, all appropriate times. I love multi-Doctor stories. In fact, I animated a Big Finish audio of the 10th Doctor meeting the 4th Doctor because I love Doctor team-ups so much. But there is a time and a place. We can speculate that because the Chris Chibnall team thought this might be the last ever episode of Doctor Who, and it was the BBC's centenary special, they wanted to go all out with a fun adventure that celebrated the whole history of the show. But as we know now, the show is alive and well, and in retrospect, I feel like it was insulting to Jodie Whittaker. Despite what you think of her incarnation, or even Capaldi's portrayal in the role, they both deserved to have their own regeneration story without another Doctor stealing the spotlight. But what do you think? Is a cameo enough? Do you really care if they have something important to do or not, or are you just happy that they're there? Personally, I want better. And I want better for actors, because that's who I really feel sorry for, because the fans are getting something out of it. At least I might be able to convince myself that I'm like, yippee, look, it's Ian. But the actors on set, they're not getting a chance to perform. They're just doing something for the fans. And I think it's noble and I think it's great that they want to return for the fans. But I would like actors to return because they want to, for themselves. So they feel like they have something to add to this character after all these years. So they're happy they're back. But maybe I'm asking too much. Who knows? Don't forget to click below to subscribe to the official Josh Nair's YouTube channel. How could I possibly forget that?